Hello everybody, welcome back to the Reese Talking YouTube channel. My name is Reese and today is Tuesday the 23rd of September 2025, and in this video we're going to be getting into the most important topic that nobody is talking about, which is depopulation and the depopulation agenda. Every crazy thing that is happening on planet Earth right now, pretty much all of it goes back to the depopulation agenda, especially climate change. Have you ever thought about the fact that climate change is a little bit questionable? Well, do you know why climate change is being pushed? Because they want to reduce the amount of carbon in the atmosphere, especially people like Bill Gates. Now, I'm going to get into this fairly deeply, and I may make a video that is even deeper in the future. Kind of want to see how people receive this video, because when you tell people they're being depopulated, not really that inclined to believe you. They'd rather think that the world is all, fairies and roses and everything's going to be fine. But that is actually not the case. And what I want to do for you today is introduce you to a few coincidences and a few bits of evidence that might actually make you think that the people running us are not only, lunatics, but they are lunatics that want to depopulate the planet, and they want to do it so that they can have one world, global domination. Now, as I just mentioned, one of the biggest players in this agenda is Bill Gates. And Bill Gates, and as I'm talking, I'm going to be putting up evidence on the screen, and I'm going to show you a video from 2010 where Bill Gates literally admits this agenda. I'm not joking. He literally admits that he wants to reduce the amount of people in the population in a TED Talk to an audience of people. And the world just kept spinning. And it's like the kind of thing that makes you think that humans are not actually conscious at this point. We've been propagandized, and what we're eating and everything like that has made us so that our minds don't work anymore. That's what I feel like sometimes. Because Bill Gates literally admitted to the fact that he needs to reduce the amount of carbon in the atmosphere via reducing the amount of people on the planet. Now, what I want to do for you initially is show you the Jaffe memo from 1967, which is a memo from somebody called Frederick Jaffe, who was the president of Planned Parenthood at the time in 1967. Now, if you watched my original video where I explained the reasoning for this YouTube channel, the first long form video that I put on this channel, you might remember the document that I showed you, the one that you are seeing on the screen right now. And I'm going to read to you a few of the things that are on this agenda and think about whether these policies have been implemented yet or not. So we've got postpone or avoid marriage. Now I would ask you, is there a cultural attitude that is kind of demonizing marriage, that is saying, you don't really need to get married, la la la? And is the age of marriage later or earlier than it used to be? Alter the image of the ideal family size. People these days look at me like I'm a lunatic when I say that I want to have 6 kids, which is strange because previously in history, people were required to have a lot of kids, 4, 5, 6 kids, because of the fact that they had disease and all of these other things. So therefore, the ideal family size used to be, 6, 7 kids, and now it's more like 2 or 3 kids for some unknown reason. Compulsory education for children. Now, you might be aware of what happens if you pull your child out of public school education in this country. You might be aware of how difficult it is to homeschool or to have private and education that is not affiliated with the state. It is very difficult. Encourage increased homosexuality. Bearing in mind these were all written in 1967. I would ask you, is there more or less homosexuals on planet Earth than there used to be? And ask yourself this: is homosexuality tolerated or is it celebrated? Because I would argue that it is the latter. Pride parades and all of these other things. And if you criticize homosexuality, you might potentially lose your job. You might get pulled in and they might start talking to you about, oh, you can't be homophobic, you shouldn't be homophobic. They have forced us to acquiesce to this, and not only but celebrate it. And if you don't celebrate it, then what are you? You're a homophobe. You should be expelled from society. So there's that. Encourage women to work. Now, I would ask you, what is feminism? Why did feminism happen? This is why I am against feminism, because I am aware of the fact that it is part of the depopulation agenda. People will say, well, why shouldn't women have the right to work? You're oppressive, la la la. And it's like, hey, genius, I'm just aware of the fact that this is part of the depopulation agenda. Encourage women to work. Now, there's one way which you can encourage women to work, which is propagandize people to believe that men and women are equal, and therefore women should do similar jobs to men and should be in the workforce just as much as men. But there's the other way where you can completely annihilate the economy via money printing and therefore make it necessary for women to work, because otherwise you are not going to be able to own any property at all. You're not going to be able to have any kids. Now, under the economic deterrence, there is one thing that stands out and should be, no, two things actually that stand out and they should be standing out to you, which is require women to work, which kind of links to what I just said before, encourage women to work via feminism, but then require women to work via making it so that the economy is so unbelievably fucked that you have to work in order to just be able to live. You might have seen TikTok videos of women in particular saying, wow, I have to work just to live. Why is it like this? This is why. But also chronic depression. Now I would ask you, has the amount of people who are depressed increased or decreased since 1967? Well, it's increased. And what is the remedy for depression that we are told? Well, it's SSRIs, it's antidepressants. But do antidepressants actually work? Well, we know that there have been studies that say that SSRIs will function very similarly to a placebo drug. And therefore, how can you really claim that SSRIs are going to work completely for you? Not to mention that SSRIs have the side effect of suicidal feelings and erectile dysfunction in men. And if you have erectile dysfunction, then what? Then you cannot procreate. Therefore, depopulation. You see how it all links together? Now, on the right-hand side, there are a few that should definitely be sticking out to you, like abortion and sterilization on demand. Now, let's talk about sterilization before abortion. Sterilization, where is sterilization? You know, how does one go about sterilizing oneself? Transgenderism, because that's the hormones and that's all of that sort of stuff. Is if you're a woman or a man and you inject yourself with these hormones, then you will become sterile. And this is all linking back. It's all, can you understand? Can you see the picture that I'm painting for you now? So transgenderism, that is one of them, which is part of the LGBT cult. And you're not allowed to criticize these people. And there's a reason for that. The ones that you can't criticize are the most important groups of people. Like, for example, Jewish power. And you can't criticize Islamic power. You'll get called Islamophobic or anti-Semitic. Can't criticize, this cult, this religion, right? The LGBT religion. And look, this video is just for entertainment purposes only, right? But at the end of the day, you can't do that. And that's because they are very important. They need to be looked at. They need to be revered as the most protected group in society because it's necessary to depopulate you. But then abortion on demand. Or is abortion on demand? Well, yes. And that's enabled by feminism, the propagandizing of the propaganda in this country and in America especially, where you get liberals to think that it's about reproductive rights, when in reality what they're actually fighting for is their own depopulation, which they don't realize, which is the most sinister and sick thing about it. They mask it. This is what they do with everything, right? With the same thing with the transgender. It's trans rights when you're enabling sterilization on demand, and with abortion on demand, it's women's reproductive rights. Yeah. And we have abortion on demand in the UK. You can go to get an abortion on the NHS up to 5 months. And you don't even have to have any good reason for it. And there are hundreds of thousands of abortions per year. I believe that since 2020, there have been an average of 200 to 300,000 abortions per year. Now, we have a big problem with our demographic change, which is partly to do with mass immigration. But I would argue that abortion is playing a very big role in that as well. Because if you have aborted, over 1 million babies since 2020, and most of them are going to be white because we're a white country, then that's contributing to your demographic replacement, is it not? But people don't talk about that. No one really says that abortion is contributing to the mass replacement of your own people. They always talk about immigration, and I believe that that's partly because they are unaware of this agenda, and they are being psyoped a little bit by the media because they want you to believe that it's all about immigration and that there are no other causes of it. But clearly, as I'm outlining here, there are other causes to it. Housing policies, discouragement of private home ownership. Now, I would ask you, Has it got easier or harder to own a home in the UK, in the US, in the West since 1967? It has got a lot harder. And why is that? Well, many different reasons. Mass migration is one reason, but also there are companies like BlackRock who are buying up thousands and thousands of our houses and renting them out at ridiculous prices, making it so that you cannot own anything. And you might have seen that agenda, you know, I think it's the United Nations 2030 agenda. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Why? Another part of this agenda is contraception on demand. Now, I would ask you, how many young women in Generation Z, in Zoomer generation, are not on the pill or have the implant? Very few. Most of them are on the pill, and contraception is very easy to access, whether it's the implant, whether it's the pill or anything like that. And as far as male contraception goes, what do you see every time you enter a public bathroom, public toilet? You see Johnnies. Yeah, you see condoms. And what's the point of a fucking condom? Well, it's to, prevent a pregnancy, right? And then there's the final one that I just want to show you before I wrap it all up and bring it all together for you, which is the fertility agents in the water supply. And in 2020, an article came out saying that there were endocrine disruptors in water and that they have effects on the reproductive system. And I will put that study where I found that, I will put that all there for you on the screen right now so you can take a read through it. And I will leave a link also to the sources in the comment section below. So far, there are way too many coincidences for this just to be, written off as a conspiracy theory, in my opinion. But now I'm going to show you the biggest coincidence of them all, which is going to make it undeniable. Now, what you're about to watch is a clip of Bill Gates giving a TED Talk in 2010, as I mentioned at the start. And somehow the world kept spinning after he said this. I don't know how, but it did, right? And he's talking about ways of reducing the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. And yes, this is a real clip. You can find it on the internet. I'll link it in the description. But take a listen to what Bill Gates said back in 2010.
Now, we put out a lot of carbon dioxide every year, over 26 billion tons. For each American, it's about 20 tons. For people in poor countries, it's less than 1 ton. It's an average about 5 tons for everyone on the planet. And somehow we have to make changes that will bring that down to zero. It's been constantly going up. It's only various economic changes that have even flattened it at all. So we have to go from rapidly rising to falling and falling all the way to zero. This equation has 4 factors, a little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3.
That is a real clip. That actually happened, yeah? Bill Gates said, and I quote, "First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines," think about COVID-19, healthcare, think about SSRIs, cancer treatments, and reproductive health services, think about, abortion, contraception, then we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. What? Like, what the actual literal fuck? And people were just, tell me how people were just there, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, we can reduce the amount of people. Yeah, and they just went along with it. Okay. But then think about this, right? The depopulation agenda, the memo that I've been highlighting and showing you throughout this video, came from Frederick Jaffe, who was the president of Planned Parenthood. And Planned Parenthood, obviously we know, carries out abortions. So how does Bill Gates link to Planned Parenthood? His dad, Bill Gates Sr., served on the board of Planned Parenthood and actively participated in civic and philanthropic endeavors in addition to his work on global health and reproductive health initiatives with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So there is a direct link between the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and, in other words, Bill Gates, to Planned Parenthood. And then you've also got to think about the fact that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has donated to Planned Parenthood and its international affiliate, the International Planned Parenthood Foundation, notably a grant for $8.8 million for family planning and reproductive health services, and it also made a June 2022 grant of $10.5 million for the International Planned Parenthood Federation European Network. And if you've been paying attention, you might have noticed that the weather in your area is a little bit questionable. I know that it is in my area, and that's because our good old friend Bill Gates wants to hack the weather to save us from extinction. The Microsoft founder is funding experiments to cool the Earth's climate. And what they mean by that is stratospheric aerosol injections, making fake clouds to reflect the sunlight away from the Earth and cool the climate. Again, being done in the name of climate change, trying to save us from extinction. But if you actually know how to read these things, what it actually is enable the extinction. Now, I am not trying to downplay the seriousness of illegal migration, or rather the asylum seeker invasion, or the cost of living crisis, or any of the other problems that we have in the UK and in the West, and anything like that, right? But the problem is that they all actually link to one agenda, which is the depopulation agenda, and it is connected to the AI technocracy agenda, which is linked to Elon Musk and these other billionaires. You know, you might remember when Elon Musk went on Joe Rogan and said, I'm going to scrap Bill Gates. Yeah, because they're trying to make you think that these billionaires aren't all in the same bed together. That's why they give you these little fake fights in the media, and why they make it seem like, Elon Musk is this great guy, and he saved free speech, he bought Twitter, bought X. And what I'm getting at here is that you might be concerned about the state of the country or the state of the world, but you don't actually realize how bad it is until you've watched this video or watched another video like it that explains that we're being depopulated. And that's the biggest problem. And they're spraying shit in the atmosphere. And hopefully this video doesn't get taken down for shit that I'm saying. But they are spraying us. They are poisoning us. Nothing is organic. The food we eat is poison much of the time. And this is the real issue. And the media will never talk about this. And this is why there needs to be an alternative media, which is what I'm trying to do here. So just think about it. Just think about, look, there are way too many, yes or no, there are way too many coincidences in this video aligning with the Jaffe memo. And the fact that Bill Gates and the Bill Melinda Gates Foundation has funded Planned Parenthood, where the Jaffe memo came from, the depopulation agenda came from. Bill Gates Sr. was on the board of Planned Parenthood, where the depopulation agenda came from. Is this a coincidence? No, it isn't. And I've said many times, we live in a simulation. We live in a simulation of depopulation. They are depopulating us. So you can get annoyed at immigration. You can get annoyed at how much things cost. You can get annoyed at whatever the fuck your problem is. But at the end of the day, you are misdiagnosing the problem if you think that there is an alternative government that is going to come in and stop the depopulation agenda, because there isn't. If a government gets into power, it must comply with the depopulation agenda. Reform UK might say that they're going to scrap net zero, but that doesn't mean that they're going to scrap the climate change initiatives, because they are the same players, they are part of the same system, and the only way that this will stop is if the people wake up. And hopefully this video doesn't get taken down. And so if you're seeing this, then that's great. And it hasn't been taken down. But that's it. That's what I wanted to say. This is the most important video I have made and probably will ever make, because it's the only reason, it's the only thing that actually matters. Okay? It doesn't matter about anything else. Nothing else matters. because it's all about depopulation. And every problem that you fucking think about, it all goes back to this. If you got an issue with immigration, your issue isn't with the immigrants. Your issue is with the people that are flooding your country because they want to destabilize and depopulate you. And yes, a lot of this goes back to Jewish power, and a lot of it is down to the AI technocracy and the new One World Order and Agenda 2030. And they all go back to the same exact point: depopulation. I keep saying it, but that's what it is. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up now. If you've enjoyed this video, then remember to leave a like. If you want more videos, if you want to see more of my videos, then remember to subscribe. Share the video with someone if you think that they could use this information. And that's it. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.